never catch me for it. See me fly, the way I put my finger on it. See me fly, you got it, then try to tell me you got the wrong guy.
Hello everybody and welcome to the Spoiler Warning Podcast. This is review number 775 with a review of Alien Romulus. I'm Christopher Schnese.
And I'm Stephen Miller.
And if you're joining us for the first time, the Spoiler Warning Podcast is a weekly film review program. Each week on the show, we're going to dive in, debate, discuss, and argue over the latest films coming to a theater near you. This week, we are returning to theaters to talk about the latest film in the Aliens franchise. This film, Alien Romulus, takes place in between Alien and Aliens. Stephen, on the podcast, we have talked about previous, or the prequels, I should say, to the Alien franchise. What are your feelings on the Alien franchise as a whole, and were you excited heading into this theater?
Yeah, my feelings about the franchise are pretty warm, but this is where I confess something deeply shameful. I have not seen any of the Alien sequels, including widely considered to be one of the greatest action films of the 80s, Aliens. Like, I think I've seen most of it on TV, but I've never sat down from beginning to end and watched that movie. This is extra shameful because I've been going through an 80s kick for the last few months, and I could have easily watched Aliens in preparation for this movie, and I still didn't do it. I know I've never seen the Fincher one. I'm pretty sure I haven't seen Resurrection either. So I honestly, my understanding of the Alien franchise is the original Alien. I think I saw one of the shitty Alien vs. Predator movies in theaters, which Ridley Scott has totally disowned. That is not even really considered a part of the actual franchise as far as he's concerned. And then these prequels. So I am in for a treat when I go back and watch them. I'm sure at least number 2. But yeah, I I think Alien, the original, is one of the greatest horror movies ever made, basically. It is an amazing movie. I've seen it a handful of times. I think it's one of the best movies of the 70s. I think it is genuinely just a fantastic movie. And in general, I like the xenomorph. I like the mythology of this universe. And Ridley Scott can be excessive in a bad way, and he can be excessive in a good way. And I feel like the Alien universe is an example where his excess is good. He has a mythology that is just so rich and interesting that you can pull a ton of stories from it. So I'm a fan, but I can't really count myself as a real fan, because a real fan probably would have watched what is often considered to be one of the greatest sequels ever made. How about you?
So yeah, I definitely grew up watching Alien and Aliens, and it's one of those things where I enjoyed them a lot, but I didn't really hold on to them necessarily as something that I cared about the lore of, right? It was kind of just, it's one of those things where you can be plopped into an Alien film and you immediately know what the stakes are. Crazy aliens coming after you, and it's like a survival horror situation, right? So I've enjoyed them enough, and I think that where I got into a little bit trouble is in in the Prometheus and Alien Covenant days of all right, now you're trying to fill in all this backstory on stuff that I really didn't give a shit about, where the xenomorphs can't come from. I just want to see somebody running from an alien. So it's I'm a fan-ish, I guess, of the series, but it's I'm always interested to check out another one, but I'm not necessarily worried that much about oh no, will it live up to what I remember? It's sort of just am I going to be entertained?
Yeah, I think for me, Covenant was the opposite of a sweet spot. Because I liked Prometheus. Because of the lore, I enjoyed that. If I remember right, because I was an idiot who didn't even look at who directed it, I guess, I didn't even know that Prometheus was going to be an Alien movie, right? The marketing for it, at least, I'm sure anyone who paid attention to the trades knew, the origin, but I didn't. So for me, when it revealed itself to be an Alien movie, I was like, holy shit, this is amazing.
It's almost like moment.
I was about to say spoilers for Split, but it's that kind of experience for me. Covenant is odd because it is not really lore building anymore. It was trying to be more of the alien is here now and is gonna, fuck with Catherine Waterston. but it's also like part two in a movie where the story was not the reason I cared about it. So that was an odd, very forgettable movie. That I almost looked up the plot right before watching Romulus because I assumed, again, not having read anything, that Romulus would be a follow-up to Covenant, that it was going to like continue in that prequel journey. And thankfully for me, I didn't need to know anything about what happened in Covenant to enjoy this. Though I kept bracing myself for Michael Fassbender to show up, but it never happened.
Instead, you got somebody else to show up, which maybe we'll talk about.
Yeah, that one was a surprise.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to talk about that, I guess, in a spoiler
We're going to need to do
segment.
a little bit of spoilers for this movie. Because I would also... We'll get into it. I won't say it yet.
Okay. Well, shall we do it, Stephen?
Let's do it.
All right, so let's dock and unload the trailer for this film and then come back and give everybody a review.
Is this really where you want to spend the rest of your life?
You know I don't.
Then this is our only ticket out of here.
What's happening?
There's something in the water.
What do you mean there's something in the
No,
water?
there's just something in the fucking water. Fucking thing's hunting us.
Open the door, come on.
Run.
Are you sure you want to do this?
All right, so that was the trailer for Alien Romulus. Reading the description from IMDb. While scavenging the deep ends of a derelict space station, a group of young space colonists come face to face with the most terrifying life form in the universe. Stephen Miller, what did you think of Alien Romulus?
The word that came to mind when I left the theater was satisfying. I feel like this is an extremely satisfying movie for people who liked the original Alien. To my mind, this is hewing very, very, very closely to the original. Like, this is another haunted house slashery type flick, right? Where everyone is in the same place and we are waiting for the scary creature one by one to start to, wreak havoc on them. And I was totally here for it. I had a very solid time the whole way through. I think Fede Alvarez definitely knows how to direct a movie and make it look good. It was a roller coaster the whole way through. I couldn't shake the feeling, even though, again, I am not fluent in the sequels. It felt like this was making lots of references to a franchise. Like, it had the ring of fan service, even if I wasn't adept enough to actually pick up on what it was servicing all the time. And so I had a little bit of like tingling in my head of like, this is feeling like if I had seen all the movies, I would find this less original than I do right now. But I haven't seen all the movies, so I had a ton of fun with it. At the beginning, I was a little worried. We were talking off mic about how I couldn't even really hear all the dialogue in the movie just because the theater was kind of loud. And I was worried that it felt like it was going for deep characterization, at least for Cailee Spaeny and Andy, the android, and all of these different people. And I I was worried, like, oh no, is this going to try to be a meaningful drama where I need to care deeply about these people, because I'm not really feeling that right now. But all of that, I feel like, is just, set dressing for the main event that within 20 or 25 minutes, the movie is going to pick up and you are going to be in the horror movie that you want to be in, rather than in a drama that thinks we care about the people, or in a deep lore intensive movie that thinks we care about the world. This just kind of gives you the goods and says, have at it. I'm going to give you everything you asked for with enough variation to keep it fresh. And it even has, for my money, and a reason I want to talk about it in spoilers, I think the ending of this movie, like the last maybe 15 minutes, is really fucking awesome and surprising. And it elevated it for me at a time when I would have believed that it might have ended. So I actually had like quite a bit of fun leaving this movie. Now, do I think it is great or high art? No, I don't. This is not the original Alien, right? This is kind of like a remix of the original Alien. Do I think it is an entertaining way to spend 2 hours? Absolutely. It even, more than once, there were jump scare type things that made me like jolt back in my seat and make a little noise, and that's what I'm here for. That's all I'm really looking for. How about you? What did you think about Alien Romulus?
Yes. So before I fully get into it, I do want to talk about two sort of weird things that seem like a weird choice to me. I think for the most part, this film is logically consistent, but there's two things that stuck out to me that like weirded me out that are just based on the premise of what is trying to be told that kind of bugged me a little bit. One is the decision to have like a bunch of young people in the cast. Obviously, this felt like we want them to be like basically kids that you are trying to watch and like root for. But I didn't buy this mining colony would just give kids, first of all, train them to pilot these like mining vessels and kind of let them roam free and do whatever they want. Like there was some aspect of that where I was like, I don't know if you're qualified to fly the ship, like being that you're basically 21 or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I never even interrogated why they were able to do any of that stuff. I was just like, I probably missed dialogue that explained it. Okay, they're on the ship now. Cool.
Yeah,
That's as far as I went.
It didn't bug me that much. It was just kind of like a weird thing where I'm like, consciously, the filmmaker wanted to have young people be the cast. Like whether it's like have a bunch of, up and coming people in this film and have them be able to run this on their own. But that decision didn't jive to me. And then the second thing is that I don't buy this space station would be derelict, especially given the context of what is on it and what the Wayland Corporation knows about what's on it. You would think they would be like, we got to go reclaim this space station. So it's kind of like, I love the idea of a derelict space station and coming upon it and then experiencing everything that's in this film. But I couldn't help but think like, they really don't have like a beacon where they can track this thing down. Like, would this just be drifting by the planet? So those were two things that bugged me just peripherally from that. So now that I got those out of the way, I actually genuinely had a great time with this film. As I said, I find this film super like logically consistent and compelling overall. Like I like the way it tries to not expand the universe, but like it tries to ground it in a reality. Like I never really thought about the idea of like if you were on a mining colony in a universe where you don't have faster than light travel, you don't have to like keep all your shit locked down because the next closest civilization in space is so far away that it doesn't matter if somebody steals a vessel and flies away, because where are they going to go? They don't have enough resources to make a 9-year journey to the next closest colony. So it's like by the sheer nature of the time it takes to travel in space, you have trapped people on this planet in a way where they literally need you to free them from their obligations on that. So I love what they're doing with that story. I love the idea of why they were going to this derelict space station. It wasn't purely just we're scrappers and we're going to scrap stuff. It was there was a reason for them to go. Their reason necessitated causing the problem that put them in this situation. This entire film is just constant Chekhov's things.
I literally my notes have 4 Chekhov's blank that I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, and some of them I guess I'll probably want to talk about in spoilers, but
yes, exactly.
I love that this film is just setting up dominoes and then pushing them over the entire time. And I had a great time watching those dominoes be set up and then put there are so many things that I don't even know if we're going to have the same list, but I mean, some of them, there's definitely going to be overlap, but there are definitely things as the film is going, I was like, okay, so this is this way for that to happen. This is the way for that to happen. Somebody's looking at this thing because this is going to come into play later. And there are just so many fun things of watching. And yes, this film it feels like homaging literally every single film in the franchise before now, even though this fits squarely in between the first and the second one. But I kind of enjoyed the way it plays with that. And I think that this film is, as you said, it's delivering the goods. This is quite literally the Twisters to Twister.
Yes.
It is playing in that zone. It has to call attention. It's all right, what do we need across the entire franchise? We need a girl who's eventually going to get a gun. We need an android. We need a face hugger. We need a xenomorph. We need this. It's just a series of playing in the sandbox that exists already. But it does it in a way where, yes, outside of one very, very specific forcing it into a specific spot in the timeline and bringing a specific character to us.
Yep.
Outside of that one time, which it wouldn't have bugged me if it wasn't the way they decided to do it and how horrible it looks. I think outside of that, I didn't mind the homages or the throwbacks or any of those things. And the whole time I was like, all right, I'm down for what this thing is doing, and I had fun the whole time. So good on you, Alien Covenant, or not Alien Covenant, Alien Romulus.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you feel that way, and I felt similarly. There is a lot of joy in watching them just call a shot and then make the shot, call it, make it, call it, make it, and that is really what this movie felt like. Honestly, until what I would say the second ending of this movie, we can talk in spoilers. There's a point where the movie could be over and then it actually is going to keep going for a little while. That first point that I thought was the ending, I felt like I was finishing a Universal Studios ride or something like that, where I was like, okay, whew, we made it through all the set pieces and now this is kind of the end. I just had that feeling of being in an amusement park, or like Star Tours at Disneyland or something like that. That was kind of the experience that watching this movie was to me. There were not that many deep surprises, but there was so much joy just in the way the plot develops and the way the camera moves and the way it continually kind of gives you the goods and peers around the corner and a xenomorph might be there. There were just things that made me feel like I was in a participatory type video game and having a lot of fun with it. And yeah, the Chekhov's thing, sometimes those could bother me, right? When a movie is too heavily underlining what it's going to do. But here, I don't know why, it just gave me delight. One that I think is early enough that I won't consider it spoilery is the first thing I wrote here is Chekhov's X-ray gun. Was very excited about that one. I'll save the other Chekhov ones for spoilers, but there's just certain kind of movies where you don't need it to surprise you. You just want it to fulfill the promise that it is giving you. And this movie fulfilled it for me pretty much every time.
Yeah. Cool. Any more non-spoilery things that we want to say?
It's hard to know what to say without a spoiler. Yeah, I think we should just get into spoilers, honestly.
Okay. Well, we are about to do that. But before we do, we have to check in and let everybody know our verdicts for this film. So Stephen Miller, if you were going to give this a must-see, recommend with the caveat, wait for rental, pass with the caveat, or a must-avoid, what would you give it?
I'm giving it recommend with a caveat. I had a lot of fun with it. I think it is a solid, entertaining, satisfying sequel / remix of the original Alien. The caveat is I don't think this is really doing anything super new or super exciting. It is really just kind of, if you want the same feeling that you had from the older movies, watch this and you're going to get it. And that just inherently is, it's fun but a little forgettable. Like I don't think a year from now I'm going to remember Cailee Spaeny and that crew and like what they were actually doing. I'm just going to remember, oh yeah, they made a kind of remake to Alien, but I guess it wasn't a remake. I guess it was a sequel, prequel, 1.5. I don't know. There's an inconsequential nature to it that just kind of limits it for me, but I had a whole lot of fun with it.
Yeah, it's a recommend with a caveat for me as well. It's so weird. Like I walked out of it going like, I think I like that. That was pretty cool. And it's like, I don't know why it's not a must-see.
Yeah.
And it might just be like, as you were saying, the sort of inconsequential nature of it all. It's just kind of like, yeah, you made a fucking pretty fun Alien movie. Good on you. But like, I don't have too many complaints, outside of the whole, like, I get you wanted to have young folk in it. That's an interesting choice, but in the context of the world, I don't buy it necessarily. I don't understand why the space station would just be derelict and nobody would have like tracked it down by now. Especially, we'll talk about it in spoilers. But like, so it's like my complaints they're not even anything that could really sink this film at all. It mostly just like, yeah, I liked it.
Yep. Same.
So yeah, so that is the non-spoiler review for Alien Romulus. Stephen Miller, for those who aren't going to stick around to spoilers, if they want to find it that week, where can they do that?
People can find me at Threads or Blue Sky at sdavidmiller or sdavidmiller.com.
People can find me at ChristopherInRealLife.com or ChristopherIRL on a number of social platforms. You can find the podcast over at thespoilerwarning.com, where you can get a bunch of the back episodes of the show. If you want to subscribe to the show, you can do so on Overcast, YouTube, Apple Podcast, or wherever podcasts are found. If you want to know when the episodes go live, you can follow us at twitter.com/spoilerwarning, facebook.com/thespoilerwarning, or instagram.com/thespoilerwarning. If you want to get a hold of us directly, you can send an email to fans@thespoilerwarning.com, or you can use the contact form on our site. Music for this episode will come from a track selected from artlist.io, so hopefully you're enjoying that. That music is going to fade up, and when that music fades out, we'll be in full-blown spoilers, so watch out, because those spoilers will embed themselves in your chest and then explode out and ruin this movie for you.
Then try to tell me you got the wrong guy. Got the wrong. Got the wrong guy.
All right, we are back. This is spoiler territory. It's the after part of our review of Alien Romulus. It's where all the xenomorphs are hanging out, getting ready to kill the crew of this podcast. Stephen Miller, where should we get started?
Do we want to just go through our Chekhov's list?
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious how they're going to line up. So I'll say one first. Chekhov's pregnancy. That was a big one for me. That is the longest gap between teeing it up and then giving you the goods, because just having seen any Alien movie, there's no way someone is pregnant and that will not in some way be xenomorph adjacent in the end.
Yeah.
But it was delightful to see the way that went down. Okay, I'll let you say one.
All right. So next one on the list is Chekhov's stuttering robot. When we were first introducing the stuttering robot, I'm like, there is no way there will not be a moment where that robot speaks in plain English in a different voice, and suddenly everybody is like, oh, fuck, shit's going down.
Yeah. I didn't write the word stuttering, but I had the same feeling. Also, because one unifying thing in pretty much the entire Alien universe is, like, don't trust the fucking androids. And so the moment we meet this character, I'm like, okay, shit is going to go down. I definitely know what is happening here.
Yeah. Especially because he's such a well-meaning robot.
Yes, exactly.
You're like, at some point in this film, this fool's gonna plug into something, and then he's gonna turn into like a full-on Terminator or something.
100%. By the way, that actor, I don't know if you ever saw Rye Lane. I think it was last year. Little charming British rom-com. Really, really, he's a sweetheart. I think you'd like that movie. But anyway, I will follow you with Chekhov's Gravity Reset.
Yeah.
This is, again, the dynamic that is teed up so early, and it's like, a set piece is going to heavily hinge on this later in the movie. I was not expecting them to give you not one, but two nice fruitions, right? One was just the idea of turning off gravity, but then the other was it going on and off in the elevator sequence in the end. So good on this movie for, it surprised me by calling it shot and then shooting twice, two birds with the same shot.
Yeah, I will say the only thing I don't like about this particular shot calling is the purging of the gravity, whatever they say, oh, it's got to purge its whatever every couple minutes. I'm not sure that makes sense, but I'll go with it. Like, I'll just be like, cool, I get it. If you manually shut off gravity, when the gravity is purged, would it then turn it back on again? That's the thing that I don't.
Yeah, I don't understand. I don't understand that part, but I'm just rolling with it.
Because, like, the gravity is artificial. So there is no gravity, and you add gravity. If you have turned off the add gravity thing, and then the add gravity thing reboots, I just don't see why it would turn gravity on your behalf if you had it off in the first place. Yeah,
it depends. Honestly, it depends if it's writing it on hard disk or just in memory. Because you're going to lose whatever's in memory. But I agree. I did not let myself think too much about those mechanics. Speaking of not thinking about the mechanics of the gravity thing, I don't know how artificial gravity works. Like, theoretically, it would work by rotating a ship. Like, that's how, like, the actual physics would do it. But they have something else that imitates gravity. Would it slow roll outward? Because in this movie, when we see that gravity is coming, again, when they're in the elevator shaft or whatever, it is a good, like, 15 seconds of us slowly watching gravity approach as if it's like a monster that is going to attack Cailee Spaeny.
It's I mean, we don't know. There isn't a scene where we understand how the thing is going, though. It is like, we assume that radial of UI that we see, we assume that is like a meter that is filling up a timer, right? We assume that's like the countdown. Maybe literally there are rings around this space station that are the things that generate it, and they generate it by segment.
Yeah. So in this movie, the gravity is like, there's just some force that turns on and pulls in like a limited horizontal area.
Yeah. Like, it's literally displacing space in a way that causes the gravity effect to happen. I don't know. Who knows what's going on in this thing? But yeah, it definitely doesn't appear to be rotation based. Which, it's interesting. Okay, so we got pregnancy, we got gravity thing. The ray gun was in the trailer, or the X-ray gun was in the trailer, so we can just bypass that one. Chekhov's injector fluid.
Yes, yeah, definitely.
The one thing, too, about the injector fluid is, like, that's going to tie itself to the pregnancy piece, right?
For sure.
But what was the android from the first film's goal? Because he was the one that originally said, like, hey, inject her with this, it might save her. But he has to know, because he was there when all the shit hit the fan. He knows their experiments haven't completed yet.
I think, you were alluding to the thing that they do, tying this to the first movie, which I assume was reanimating Ian Holm and putting him in this movie. So the same actor. I think it is only the same actor, but a different android. Like, they're like doing the Princess Leia thing for arguably no reason. He's like the same model because he has a different name. But it is weird because Ash, the original one, I think he was ripped in half, like, in that way. in a previous Alien movie. But when Ian Holm is here, or not, it's not him. He's passed away.
The world's worst deep fake.
Yes. When this terrible deep fake is talking, he is saying that this xenomorph came when the only surviving crew member ejected it from the ship, which I assume that is Ripley, right? Like, this is the original xenomorph that happened to land here or was floating out in space and they snatched it or whatever. So I truly don't think he was there in the original one at all. He's just the same model as the one that was in the original.
But yes, he was not the one in Alien, but he was the android working on that ship. So he knows that on that ship, their experiments were never successful. Like, he literally says, please take these injector fluid vial things and get them to the corporation so they can continue the experiments. But like, even when they first take it out, you see that screen where it shows like the rat, where the rat like got better, but then also it explodes at the end. And it's like, the android knows that it doesn't actually save them. Maybe it's one of those things where he didn't realize she was pregnant. Like maybe if she weren't pregnant, it would have been okay. But when we say android, are we also thinking, because there's a middle layer here, which is Andy is the one who actually gives the injector to the pregnant girl and says, like, this should keep her alive. And I don't know what he knows. I swear he said that after talking to the guy on the computer screen, but I could be wrong. But either way, I feel like the guy on the computer screen said, like, no, don't give that to her. Right. Like, please keep it in the vial and then take it to the station. Because like Cailee Spaeny is like, I don't trust this shit. I'm not going to inject her. And then she injects herself later. And it turns out Cailee Spaeny was correct. Don't inject yourself with that, because
there's something I missed too. Why did Cailee Spaeny give it to her? Because the plan was to go into cryosleep, and that was still what she was going to do. Is it just that she would have been too weak to go on her own, so she had to inject herself to have the strength to even make it to the cryo chamber?
I mean, she got back to the ship, but I think she was also like, I think I'm dying. I'm just going to inject myself with the shit.
Why did Cailee even give it to her? In that
I don't
scenario?
know why anybody here tries to help the corporation out. Like, that was one little logical leap that I was like, I don't know. Like, I guess they assumed, well, they'll rescue us. One way or another, I'll get off this godforsaken mining colony, and this ship will take me back to corporation, and then maybe they'll, award me for rescuing the samples and let me live out my life happily or whatever. Like, maybe it was a gamble they were taking. But yeah, I never quite understood why they were like, all right, evil robot guy, let me do what the corporation says now.
Yeah.
Cool.
I do feel like the time from facehugger implantation to birthing has gotten tighter and tighter as more of these movies get made.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like in the original Alien, it is like quite a bit later that this happens.
Yeah. I mean, that seems to be the thing. Like, the reason why these are the most advanced, like, beings in the universe or whatever is because with almost zero resources, they can just gestate and grow incredibly fast. They can basically go from being a fetus to a full-grown adult in a matter of like 2 minutes flat. which is fun in the context of the film, I guess. But yeah, it's definitely feels weird. But whatever. Yeah.
Did I catch too that evil robot AI monstrosity? Because a dead xenomorph crashed into the ship, right? And then he like bioengineered the facehuggers again out of that xenomorph. Like, how did we get facehuggers in the cryo chamber?
So the facehuggers were being stored there to keep them dormant, in literally cryostasis. But the thing is that the lab was experimenting on them because they wanted to evolve humans using the xenomorph
Of course,
DNA.
but where did they come from? Because it was a dead xenomorph, I think, that made it to the ship. So where did living facehuggers get involved?
They were able to like basically just clone them or something. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they did it.
Because that one was floating in space in its like hibernation cocoon. Who knows if it like was partially alive or whatever, or if they just harvested the embryos or whatever from it. It is weird that like the process of it births one creature, which then has to implant a creature from a different species to actually grow the evolved version of it. It's a weird system. But yeah, moving on. Do you got more Chekhov's items?
I think that's all the Chekhovs that I got.
I got another simplified one, but it was still like so noticeable. Chekhov's pulley system.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Because Andy walks in, he's like, "Huh, pulley system," and I was like, "Well, clearly that's coming back."
Right. Okay. Yeah, I see that now.
It was such a weird acknowledgement of like, well, this is the thing that you could hold on to, maybe in emergency, like if you disconnected the bowels of your ship. I think that might be all of them now.
I will tell you, this is not even really a spoiler, and it's also not Chekhov, really. But there's a teeing up for callbacks that did not work for me at all, which was the continued dad joke delivery system from Andy. I get it. I get where it comes from. I knew that meant like at the end of the movie or toward the end, he was going to be like telling Cailee dad jokes again. They never landed for me. Not even once. I don't know. I know they're not supposed to be funny, but they were defiantly unfunny to me.
All right. That's fair. Yeah, so now that we're past all the Chekhovs, is there anything specifically that you want to talk about with what goes down in this film?
I mean, so the thing that I obviously knew a birth was going to come at some point toward the end of this movie. I honestly thought it was going to be the hint of a sequel or something. Like they'd be going off to you whatever. You. I keep wanting to say Uvalde, but I'm sure that's not the name of it.
Yeah, wherever they're going.
Yeah, they go to their utopia place, and then there would be like a rumbling or something happening, and it would be like next time, and I'd be like, oh shit, okay, cool, where the new place is going to be infested too. But they didn't do that. They actually had a whole other set piece where Cailee Spaeny has to fight this creepy human creature, this evolved human baby with xenomorphy tendencies, and the speed at which it goes from a baby that I guess she's like, oh no, let me go rescue the baby that I let fall, into this thing that it kind of resembles to me the humanoid alien in the beginning of Prometheus.
Yeah.
But it's just this like creepy kind of like vampire type thing that she's fighting.
It reminds me of the adult creature from Splice.
Interesting.
I half expected it to go, her to scream, "What do you want?" and him to say, "Inside you."
I was getting mild Goonies vibes, personally.
I also was thinking, I think you should leave a little bit too.
Oh, yeah. Too much shit on me. Yeah, I can see that. But anyway, I found that bit genuinely like exciting. Like that was when I was making a lot of noises, just like enjoying the twists and turns of it, especially when she tries to kick him out, pull a Ripley basically and get him out of the ship. And then she is dangling and she's climbing up, and there's a jump scare where suddenly like that creature appears in front of her, and I like full on leapt from my seat in that moment. So that, I'm sure, again, I have not seen all the sequels. I know they do more, at least with cloning or resurrection, as Alien Resurrection says. So I assume the idea of a more human xenomorph hybrid-y thing has probably been explored in these movies, but to me that was new, and to me I found it sufficiently creepy as fuck, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it definitely felt like a call forward, I guess, call back in reality, but call forward chronologically, because it must. I don't remember. Was it Resurrection? One of them, like a clone of Ripley, falls into like a big giant like alien queen vagina, and then this like creature gets born that is like a humanoid version of the aliens, but like human flesh colored, and so it definitely felt like it was kind of trying to evoke both that thing, that monstrosity, and the Promethean, whatever they're called, the proto-human people, the engineers, is that what they were called?
Like, I know there was the engineer in Prometheus, and I forget if that's the proto-human people or something else.
Yeah, there might have been a different name for them, but anyways, yeah.
Yeah, because that was when I said before that even though I haven't seen the sequels, there were moments that I felt like must have been fan service to the sequels. That was one where I was like, I haven't even seen this in another thing, but I feel confident that this is referencing a thing. It just was giving that vibe.
Yeah, I definitely think the way that plays out is because you kind of feel like I knew there was more to come, obviously, but it could have been treated as it could have ended and treated it as a post-credit sequence of like, we thought we did it, we're away, we're in cryo sleep now, everything is good to go, and then like it ends with like a warning thing, and then like an X-ray monitor that just shows like something's in her belly or whatever. And that would have been enough, but actually giving it to us, and also that the shot of when she ejects the tube and there's just like a fully distended stomach, I was like, fuck yes, bring it on.
Not since Men have I gotten that squirmy feeling.
And also, I don't want to get too weird, but when the creature crawls back to go find Mama, he's definitely coming to feed, but not to eat her, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I think it wanted either feeding or even maybe love, and then when it gets rejected, it gets angry and just goes for feeding instead.
Because she like reaches into her shirt and then it pulls out like a bunch of slime, and I was like, is that like alien breast milk that's happening right now? So I was expecting like a way more horrendous scene of like whatever was about to happen with that tentacle mouth thing.
Yeah, I mean, did we see where the tentacle mouth went? Like, we see it pulling it back. Okay.
Yeah, we don't see it, but it definitely was like, I think we're about to get some alien nursing.
Beautiful. Yeah, I don't know. It was predictable, but I felt like I had finished the video game, and then suddenly I was getting like a little bonus game at the end, and it just I found it pretty delightful.
Yeah. There's one more thing that kind of bugged me right there at the end, though, which maybe you can explain it, or you could say don't think about it too much. But they're told, get on the ship, turn on autopilot. I'll send you back to where you need to go. You can deliver the samples. She immediately goes, fuck that noise, turns off autopilot, and then all the stuff comes down.
Right.
Ejects the little bottom thing. The alien falls into the rings of the planet. It theoretically gets like obliterated. She's theoretically about to be obliterated too, but autopilot just goes back on and starts sending them back. Like,
yeah, it's like autopilot turned off because the cargo was jeopardized, and I don't know what that meant, like how it knew the cargo was jeopardized, but when it ceased to be jeopardized, like maybe it's like the weight changed, and that change in weight triggered autopilot going off, and then when that was restored,
it's like, I delivered my cargo, now go home to get more cargo.
Yeah, exactly. Like because there is something that it says of like cargo jeopardized, reverting to manual, and I don't know how it knew that, but that is what was fixed in some capacity when Cailee Spaeny knocked the alien out. I don't know why.
All right. Now, one more thing.
Okay.
The writers of this film feel like they have debated for years the thing about the aliens' blood being acid.
Mm-hmm.
And they basically had the Rick and Morty, what if you dropped a lightsaber facing straight down, what would happen? They had that conversation about the alien blood. And clearly they were like, I mean, come on, obviously it would just go out forever until the vacuum of space slurped it up, and then you would have like a hull breach. And that plays into this film. And I was like, you know what? That's cool. Somebody turned like somebody's nerd conversation into an actual plot point. But then I was like, but wait, you already had the xenomorph that was hanging from the ceiling that already bled out and went through the floor, but there was no exposure to the vacuum of space. So was it that they were on the outside of the ship and everybody knows the acid can only go through like 2 floors, but like in the center of the ship, there's more than 2 floors of space? Like...
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why that one xenomorph doesn't do that. Also, at the end, unless this is the one you're talking about, the xenomorph that Andy kills in the elevator at the very end, he doesn't seem to ooze acid the same way either as the other ones that were floating. And I don't know why that is. But my issue was more just physics, which is even in the zero gravity, those xenomorphs are moving. So the acid is in motion. Like there's momentum behind it. So it still was going to go through all the walls. It just happens to not, right? It happens to just like float in this perfect thing forever.
Swirl. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know why. I'm fine with it because the visual of her like slow motion having to dodge these acid things that you are flying toward is a fun visual.
And even like the counter visual of her, of Andy just holding her down so that she can shoot all the things. Like I was like, all right, this is cool. Like it's kind of dumb, but also I love it.
Okay, the last thing that is gnawing at me is just it's like on the tip of my tongue and I can't place it. But the sequence where they are walking through the area that has tons of face huggers and they are trying to stay at the same temperature so the face huggers will not notice them, and then halfway through suddenly all hell breaks loose and they have to run. I feel like I have seen that pretty recently in a different movie where people find themselves in a place with the creepy monster or whatever is all around them.
A Quiet Place Day One.
Well, no, I mean, that's true, but that isn't the one I'm thinking of.
Okay.
I'm thinking of something that we reviewed together maybe like a year or 2 ago, where people found themselves like just surrounded by these things and trying to not cause it's like they're frozen or something. And then all of a sudden one unfreezes and then they all unfreeze. You can think about it and maybe you'll text me like in the middle of the night because you've remembered.
I can't think of what this it's not like the Godzilla film, is it? No,
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, I got Ninja Turtles. No.
It's okay. We'll take it offline.
All right. Yeah. Did we do it, Steven?
I think we did it.
Did we survive? Are we able to go back into cryo sleep and wait until the next episode?
I think so.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. And if you remember what film Steven's talking about, fans at thespoilerwarning.com.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
It was Army of the Dead. It was the Zack Snyder zombie, not Army of the Dead. That's the Evil Dead thing. It's the Zack Snyder.
The
zombie is in Vegas.
The Vegas. Yeah.
Okay. Phew. Got it.
All right. Then I guess nobody has to write in now. All right. Later.
Bye.